A normal girl is teleported to an alternate universe where she is a national saint with magical powers. Will she be able to adapt to her new life? Let's find out, as today on Anime Recaps, we will be covering the first 4 episodes of the series, The Saint's Magic Power is Omnipotent. The show begins in a magical kingdom named Salutania that lies in a faraway universe from ours. Since ancient times, Salutania has been surrounded by a malador that gives rise to monsters who wreak havoc in the kingdom. When the Order of Knights fails to defeat these beasts, the upper officials and the prince decide to summon a holy maiden called the Saint. She will be put in charge of restoring peace in the kingdom through her holy powers. The scene changes to our world, where a girl named Sei is working overtime. She gets off work and is happy to finally reach home. But right then, a strange force emerges from the ground, swallowing her whole. In less than a second, Sei is teleported to Salutania. The people who witness her appearance erupt in cheers, welcoming their saint, who they believe has come to save them. A confused Sei looks around and notices that a brown-haired girl has also been teleported with her. The prince comes running before declaring that the other girl is their saint. It turns out that they only need one, which means Sei's appearance was a mistake. The priests tell her that she has the option to return home, but for the welfare of the kingdom, it would be best if she decides to stay in the palace. After all, she was summoned alongside the saint, which makes her special. Sei thinks about it for a while before accepting the offer. 2 weeks pass, and Sei regrets her decision already. She has been trapped in the palace with a maid to take care of her needs. However, the lack of entertainment and media has bored her out of her mind. She doesn't even have anyone to complain to, so she drowns herself in her thoughts all day long. The maid suggests she take a guard with her, but Sei doesn't want to indulge in any more awkward conversations. The walk goes normally until she ends up in a lavender field and is mesmerized by its beauty. While admiring it, Sei is approached by a botanist named Jude. He introduces himself before disclosing that the flowers are used for research and medicinal purposes in the institute he works at. Sei has always liked botany and has been reading books about plants as a hobby. Hence, when Jude offers to show her around the research institute, she happily agrees. For the next hour, Sei meets Jude's co-workers and learns about the potions made in the facility. Jude explains the process to her with passion, making Sei envious of his job. For the next few days, Sei continues going to the institution and learning about different things. The maid notices the evident change in her behavior, which makes Sei realize she has been in a better mood after she started to go on walks. That day, she meets Director Takuya, the chief of the institution. As they discuss her interest in plants, Jude comments that Sei wants to move into the institution and live with them. The director offers her a job as a researcher, since he's been watching her help around for the last few days. Sei is shocked, having never seen the offer coming, but she accepts it in an instant. Later that evening, she meets an officer in the palace who happily allows her to join the institution. Following that, she moves into the institution and starts learning to make potions. Jude becomes her tutor and introduces her to more in-depth processes. The first potion she is shown is a panacea. To make it, one must mix water with a special herb and then use magical powers to add the antibiotic nature. Sei is shocked, having never known that she had such powers. Jude illustrates how to use one's magic and holds her hand to make her feel its flow. Sei then mimics him by trying to add magic into a potion. Initially, she doesn't feel the flow, but the director then stops her, claiming that she has poured enough. By the end of her first day, Sei is happy to have learned so many things. When she is in her room later, a lab worker comes to her, asking if it was her first day of making potions. He is surprised because the vial she made is 50 times more potent than usual potions. This means Sei's chakra is more intense than normal humans, but Jude doesn't think that it's possible. He shows her 2 different vials of the same potion, one much darker than the other. The darker one means more potency, and since Sei's potion is not so dark, she still has a lot of work to do. She takes it as a challenge and starts making 10 vials of panacea a day. After a week of doing so, Jude asks her to calm down because she might finish all their stock of flowers, which is also used for other purposes. Just when Sei feels bad for causing trouble, they are informed of injured knights who have returned after fighting the monsters. The potions are required in abundance to treat them, which brings Sei out of trouble. She and her team travel to the palace and treat as many soldiers as they can. Since Sei's potion is more effective than the rest, it helps the soldiers greatly. She also takes care of the commander of the knights, Hawk Albert. The following morning, the director calls Sei to his office and praises her for her good work. The palace has given them a lot of money for their service, and Sei is free to ask for anything she wants. After giving it some thought, she asks for a kitchen because she loves to cook. In reality, she doesn't like the food the chefs cook because the use of spices and condiments is not a trend in this world. The director grants her the wish and asks her to cook a meal for him as well. For the first time in a month, Sei makes roasted chicken using every spice she could get her hands on. The director is taken away by the taste, so much so that he wants her to give the recipe to the facility's cooks, wanting all the staff to enjoy it. In the following scene, Sei is teaching the chefs about condiments and their flavors. They are interrupted by Jude, telling Sei the director wants her in his office. Albert has come to thank her personally for saving his life and taking care of his knights. He seems to be especially interested in Sei and is willing to escort her deep into the woods to collect more herbs. The director allows it and sends an entire team on the expedition. Albert doesn't leave Sei's side for the entire trip, making sure of her safety. Halfway through, they stop to rest, and Sei cooks soup for the team. The entire group, and especially Albert, are blown away by the taste. The next morning, the director informs Sei that the knights felt more energetic after eating the food she made. He assumes that the magical power she possesses made the spices in the food more effective. Although it is a good thing, she must refrain from cooking for more people because her power must not be advertised to the general public. Later, Sei is in the library when she meets a beautiful girl named Elizabeth. They indulge in a brief conversation before Elizabeth excuses herself. After work, Sei encounters Albert, who offers to bring her home on his horse. They are too close to be just friends, but Sei is oblivious to Albert's feelings for her. One day, Elizabeth tells Sei about her friend suffering from severe acne. Sei takes it as a challenge and creates a special antibacterial face cream for the girl. A few weeks later, she is finally successful, and the girl gets her confidence back after years. The ointment is so powerful that it changes the tone and texture of Elizabeth's hand in an instant when she tries it. In the following scene, we see Sei complaining about the hot weather. To freshen up, she puts her feet in cold water and opens the first few buttons on her dress. Just then, Albert enters the room, making her jolt up in embarrassment. After she composes herself, he asks her out on a date to the market. Sei assumes it's just a friendly date and agrees. Then, we see the two enjoying their day together, visiting different shops and stalls. At midday, they stop to eat, and Albert helps Sei by magically pouring ice into her glass of water. In the end, they enter a jewelry shop, where Sei's eyes land on a beautiful but expensive hairpin. She thinks of saving money for the next month to buy it. After a wonderful day together, Albert drops her home and gives her a box before leaving. She opens it to find the hairpin she liked earlier. The only difference is that the diamonds are of a slightly different color, but she loves them nonetheless. The next day, Elizabeth sees the hairpin and inquires if Albert gave it to her. She then reveals it's a trend for men to give their lovers gifts that are the color of their eyes. Since Albert is known for his deep blue eyes, Elizabeth assumed the diamonds on the hairpin were his choice. Sei freezes in shock because this would mean Albert is interested in her, and the date wasn't just a friendly one. She glows red in embarrassment as Elizabeth laughs at her flustered face. A few days later, Jude notices that Sei's magic is transferring on to the hairpin in some ways. He doesn't know what effect it has, but Sei decides to do more research about the matter. When the director finds out about her interest, he brings her to the court of mages. They help her understand the process of appraisal magic by showing her different stones. If they bestow magic onto the stones, they change into protective ones, which help the knights in their missions. Sei is asked to try bestowing her magic into a small rock. She does as she's told and is successful on the first try. Everyone is taken by surprise, especially the Grand Magus, and the director of the Royal Mage Academy, Yuri. He assists Sei and makes her bestow a bunch of rocks with different kinds of powers. Sei does so efficiently and quickly, while a normal person takes years-long training to do the same thing. By the end of the session, she is given the best rock as a gift for helping them, because they would have taken days to bestow that many rocks. A few weeks later, Hawk comes to visit Sei in the Research Institute. He discloses that the Mage Academy is lacking in manpower since they have been tasked to help 2 orders of knights at the same time. Hence, Hawk is here to ask for help from Sei in exchange for proper compensation. Sei goes to work the next day and completes half of her part in a single day. Hawk checks the stones and praises her for her hard work. He also smiles for the first time, taking his disciples by surprise. In the following scene, the King of Salutania is being told about the holy powers that Sei possesses. She has been in the kingdom for less than a year, but the quality of her magic is comparable to that of the Grand Magus, or perhaps even higher. The king assumes that she is the real saint and asks the director and Hawk to keep her powers a secret for the time being. A few days later, Sei is asked to bring potions to the soldier about to go on another expedition to fight the monsters. She makes friends with them and wishes them luck before they set off for work. Later that day, she is kicked out of the institute for a few hours for making too many potions. Initially, the director was afraid she would tire herself, but now he is more concerned about running out of raw materials because of her limitless magic. In her break, she goes to the library and finds a book about holy magic. She is approached by the king, who helps her pick the right book and encourages her to expand her knowledge. A few more weeks pass, and Sei continues learning new tricks through the book. One day, she accidentally cuts her finger while cooking and heals it with just a blow. On the same day, she is informed about the return of the knights from their expedition. She goes to visit them with food and discovers that a friend has lost his arm in the battle. Sei remembers she is not supposed to make a show of her powers, but this time it's different. She makes him take off the bandage and uses all her chakra to grow his arm back. The others in the room watch her in awe as she continues healing everyone. Some get their eyesight back, while others heal from injuries that would otherwise take at least a month. In the last scene, the director and Albert praise her for her good deeds.